Mistakes are where real learning happens. And as my good friend Robert Kiyosaki always says, if you're not making mistakes, you're simply not trying. This episode, I want to talk about the mistakes particularly young people make so you don't fall for the same ones. This is an extremely important episode, so stay with me. Welcome to Your Money Mindset, guiding you to achieve lasting financial freedom and peace of mind. I'm John McGregor. Everyone makes mistakes when it comes to money, and I'm not intending to pick on the young people here. It doesn't matter how young or old you are. Financial mistakes happen. However, there's a different attitude among older teenagers and 20-somethings when it comes to their personal finances. That's been essentially rooted out of many older Americans. And this attitude may involve a number of factors, but it leads to mistakes. If we're being honest with ourselves, many of the mistakes young people make are the same mistakes the older people make. So it's really important to realize that I'm not really picking on young people as though they have no clue. I know a number of young adults who are earning good money and doing very well for themselves, protecting their investments, making reasonable decisions, and are mature beyond their years. At the same time, there are just far too many who have a tendency to make some very big money mistakes they wouldn't have made if they had a few more years under the belts first. Sometimes young people think they have it all figured out, right? And that's not to insult them again. We know it. Even people in their 20s and 30s look back on their teenage years and they see their own attitudes and remember how they told their parents they didn't know what they were talking about, right? Can you relate? And then they stormed off. It's natural. I mean, this is how we grow up. We assume that the reason there are rules our parents impose on us is simply because they're mean, not because they're concerned about our health or our well-being. We assume they don't trust us when it's the world they don't trust. So there's this tendency to feel as though we know everything when we're younger, right? But we gain wisdom as we get older. And there's this adage that goes something like this: the older a person is, the more they realize what they don't know. And it's true. Trust me, it's true with me. So with that being said, let's talk about some of the more common mistakes I see, the big mistakes young people make when it comes to their finances. The more you know about these mistakes ahead of time, the less likely you're going to make them as you go through your life. Okay, so here comes some tough love. Mistake number one, spending big on a wedding. Emotion and finances do not go together very well. You know, the average cost of an American wedding today is over $28,000. I mean, are you kidding me? Do you know what you could do with that money, invest or purchase with $28,000? I mean, that's a down payment for an average size house. And you spend it on a wedding? Sure, you assume this once in a lifetime event, but so what? Even if you're one of the 50% who don't get divorced, you may look back on that wedding and the photo album with some fondness, but was it really worth all that money? Did you really need to spend thousands of dollars on a dress you wore once? Did you really need to fly to Hawaii with your buddies for that once in a lifetime bachelor party? Or how about that $1,000 wedding cake? Traditionally, the bride and groom's family would all help and pitch in and pay for the wedding. But today, more and more of the younger people are paying for their weddings out of their own pockets. Or worse, they're going into debt to pay for it. They suddenly start their life together with a lot less. So they start their life together with student loans and major debt to pay for a wedding that is suddenly and quickly in the rear view mirror of their life. Imagine how much it's going to hurt if they do end up divorced. Okay, number two, failing to carry health insurance. Sure, you may be healthy now and vibrant, but emergencies and accidents can happen at any time. Don't make the common mistake of not having health insurance. Getting to the doctor, going to the dentist, having your eyes examined are all very important things to do. And in this day and age, with processed foods and sugars and just about everything we eat, the chances of getting some type of cancer or illness have increased dramatically. So don't make the mistake of not carrying health insurance, because guess what? You can't declare bankruptcy to have your medical bills erased. They will be with you until they're fully paid off or for the rest of your life, whichever comes first. Mistake number three, not saving for retirement. The idea that there's always going to be time to save for retirement is a bad one. The earlier you start saving for retirement, the more you will have once you reach that age. You could invest $1,000 today and have it be worth $22,000 in a couple of decades from now, thanks to compounding interest. If young people put aside $1,000 every month, starting in their early 20s, they'd have literally millions of dollars saved by the time they were 60. And as I've said many times before, there's no better strategy for you and your future than to pay yourself first. And for those just starting out, I would highly, highly recommend putting aside 20% of your take-home paycheck and putting that into a long-term investment portfolio, and make sure this is automated so it happens automatically. I know what you're thinking right now, 20% is impossible. It's way too much. Well, the hard truth is, perhaps you're spending too much on things elsewhere. Perhaps you're living in too nice of a place or driving too nice of a car. Whatever it is. Look, this really boils down to priorities. Do you want to live like a rock star now and suffer later? Or do you want to sacrifice a little now and achieve financial freedom and peace of mind down the road? It's up to you. I set my sights on financial freedom by the time I was 40, and I hit my goal at age 35. I worked hard and sacrificed a lot, but thank goodness I did it. I still enjoyed life. I was able to have a lot of fun. I was just focused on my goals and stuck to my plan. And I can't tell you how gratifying it is to be financially independent at a young age. And you can absolutely do the same with the right mindset and process in place. Mistake number 4, continuing on to grad school when it's not necessary. You don't have to keep going to school. Once you have those minimum requirements to start a career, get started. And that may not include college at all. You have no idea what a future employer might be willing to do if they want you to get an advanced degree. More companies today are offering to pay for grad school for key employees, and that could be you. Companies will invest in their valued employees. And if you're one of them, your entire graduate education could be fully paid for. So if it's not necessary to go to grad school for your career, I wouldn't do it. Number 5, failing to focus on your credit and building it positively. I remember when I first went off to college, I had an opportunity to get a credit card. I thought it was easy money, and boy, was that a mistake. I paid for it. There's nothing wrong with credit and credit cards, but you must use them wisely. And don't think of it as free cash. Instead, only purchase items you already have cash for with your credit cards and pay your bills on time. Bad credit can be a death sentence and will cause all sorts of problems in your life down the road. Be diligent with your credit cards. It will help you build positive credit scores that are so important. Number 6, relying on parents far too long. Sure, it's nice to have parents who have a place to stay, help you cover your bills and so on. But if you rely on them through your 20s and even into your 30s, you're going to set yourself up for problems. The longer you rely on parents, the less dependent on yourself you become. So when you finally cut that cord, you'll have a lot of financial struggles to overcome. Get out on your own and be as fully financially independent as you can, as early as you can. Not developing a solid long-term plan. If you have no idea where you want to be in life financially when you're in your 40s or 50s or even 60s, how can you possibly get there? You're essentially playing roulette with your future. I set my goal at age 20 and stuck to it, and thank goodness I did. And if you're not planning for the future, you're simply planning to fail. Sit down and figure out the various milestones you want to reach, when you want to reach them, and how you're going to get there. Remember, you're never too old to develop a solid financial long-term plan. And forget that notion that since you're 50 or 60 now, it's too late. No, it's not. Yes, you're going to struggle, and yes, you may have to delay retirement a little longer than you wanted to. But the worst thing you could do is not do it at all. Number 8, rushing to buy a house. Far too often I see young people, or even 30-somethings and 40-somethings, going out to buy a first house based purely on emotion. They have a tendency in these emotional, driven moments to look for something far bigger than they actually need. And if you carry a huge mortgage for a 5-bedroom house and it's just you or you and your new spouse, that's a lot of money flying out the window. And that's because the larger the house, the fancier or newer it is, the more likely you're carrying a big mortgage. A big mortgage means a lot of money spent on interest over the life of that loan. Instead, I would suggest renting. You're young, there's a lot of uncertainty in your life, and you could be asked to relocate when you land your new job. Houses are expensive, require taxes, insurance, maintenance, yard service. And when, not if, something breaks, guess who pays to fix or replace it? You do. I rented for many years before I purchased my first home, and I'm very glad I did. Now, let me say this. If you're purchasing a fixer-upper to renovate or sell or perhaps rent out, that's an entirely different story. Now you're purchasing real estate to build wealth, which I encourage. Also, when that day does come and you do in fact decide to buy a house, consider buying one with an attached cottage or a separate house. In other words, something that you can rent out to create cash flow for yourself. And lastly, here's some other common mistakes I see young people making. And they include getting married and having children far too young and too quickly, using credit the wrong way, as I already mentioned, trying to impress others with their fancy cars or big houses or nice vacations so they can post on Facebook. You don't have to keep up with the Joneses. And finally, another major mistake too many young people make is not earning enough money. Too many young people are focused on having a great time, going out to bars or restaurants and taking extravagant vacations with friends or just having wild parties. This is the time when you're most likely single and have the opportunity to work hard. Earn as much money as you can now. Freelance on the side, write books in your area of expertise, and generate passive income for the future. Mistakes are opportunities to learn from. You either get it right or you learn. Don't ever think of a mistake as losing or a failure. It's only a failure if you don't learn and stop trying. Remember, it's never too late to start your journey to financial freedom and peace of mind, and your financial destiny is a matter of choice, not chance, and it's something to go after, not wait for. So with that, I hope this was helpful, and I hope you can reflect on some of these mistakes that I've seen a lot of young people make so you don't make these yourself. Leave a comment, hit subscribe, would love to hear from you, and until next time, take care.